Hello, I'm Stephan Bonnar. Welcome to the final round, joined by Matthew Holt, as always, and we're starting off this show by giving a special, not only shout out, but call out to one Ryan Quinn.
Our friend Ryan Quinn, at Mighty Quinn on Twitter. Mighty Quinn ATT on Twitter, who was our big money maker in the last Bellator card. We told him we'd give him a little love. We are. Look, Scott Coker, Bellator, Ryan Couture. Ryan Quinn's looking for you, my man. Next card, I heard they're having a card, Scott, in Brooklyn. Ryan Quinn looking for the fight against Ryan Couture.
So this is us giving Ryan Quinn a call out to Ryan Couture for that next big Bellator card. Let's see that fight happen. I think it's a hell of a matchup, good matchup, and
two good grapplers, make sense.
Yes, I don't see why not.
Look, Ryan Quinn, 7-1 Bellator at this point.
He steps up whenever you ask him to.
He deserves a fight.
Give this guy a good fight.
Ryan Couture, Ryan Quinn, make it happen.
All right, on the Bellator 185, Bader versus Linton Vassell. And hey, this one opened at Bader a -180, but it quickly moved because how the hell is Linton Vassell gonna beat Bader? His only hope is to take him down and submit him. He's really not a knockout puncher type guy, and really the only losses we've seen Bader lose are to guys that are dangerous, like Machida, like Glover Teixeira, like Rumble Johnson, or to someone who, the rare person who can out-wrestle him, like John Jones, get on top and then get him in a choke, and Linton Vassell's not going to out-wrestle Ryan Bader.
And one other guy who beat Ryan Bader, Tito Ortiz.
Ooh, yes!
Oh, no.
I did not want to hear. Let's forget about that one.
I mean, do you still like Ryan Bader? He got choked out by Tito.
Yeah, I guess it could happen. Yep, it could happen.
Look, if Tito could choke him out, Linton Vassell could choke him out. As much as I hate
Tito, like, he's a pretty solid wrestler, and he's, you know, as a fighter, he's not half bad.
The problem with laying a big price with Ryan Bader is that he's not a big striker either, and that a lot of his fights, just like both of them with Phil Davis, are super close decisions. And if Linton Vassell and Ryan Bader's wrestling negate each other, which is what happened in both Phil Davis-Bader fights.
There's no way Vassell's and Bader's wrestling Bader's gonna out-wrestle the hell out of him like he did OSD. He's the better wrestler, hands down.
Well,
you know, Vassell's a jiu-jitsu guy. Yeah, maybe he catches him with the knee going in for one of those takedowns. But yeah, Bader is the better wrestler in this fight. But at 4-1, I don't want to lay it. When it opened at -180, I didn't catch it. I would have laid it there.
I actually made a play on Linton Vassell plus 300 here. I think he has a shot. Bader has trouble with the athletic guys. I think Linton Vassell's athletic enough, tall enough. He's going to have to land some strikes, Vassell. And I think if he catches Bader with something, he could wrap him up in a submission afterwards. Either catch him in a scramble where it's an awkward scramble, or hurt him and then maybe submit him. But at 3-1, I'm willing to take a shot.
All right. Well, maybe, yeah, it was something like Tito was a huge underdog, caught him with something and slapped something on. So I could see that scenario. Very low probability playing out, but I see your point. Other than that, on the card, you know, Phil Davis up to -700 last time we checked.
Unbelievable.
So
look, two Penn State alums on this card, former standout Penn State wrestlers, Phil Davis and Ed Ruth. They opened -380 and -440, and they're both getting pounded. I mean, Phil Davis is -750 against an undefeated light heavyweight now. I mean, I understand that both these guys were brought in as a showcase for the two Penn State guys, but 750 now and 650, I'm not 100% sure both of them win. Ed Ruth's only had 3 pro fights against the guy who fought 4 times in the UFC.
So are you going to make any other plays on this card?
No. I can't. Look, Chris Dempsey, despite the fact that he had a bunch of fights in the UFC, got knocked out in the first round in a lot of them. And this Leonard Leite guy's 10-0, but he's also 40 years old. And
yeah, and I mean, most of his wins have come by submission. What are you going to take Phil Davis?
Yeah, that's right.
I just don't see it happen. And but on the UFC card, there's a couple of dogs I like. So let's go on to UFC 217 at Madison Square Garden. Bisping versus GSP. It's pretty much a pick-em, and I've heard good arguments on both sides. And in this fight too, it's like I could see either guy winning it, but I think Bisping's going to underestimate the strength of GSP. I don't think we're going to see like the same GSP that was kind of run down and burnt out and sick of fighting and kind of unmotivated against Johnny Hendricks, even though he won a split decision he probably shouldn't have. I see we're going to have motivated, big, strong GSP, and that's like, who does Michael Bisping lose to? Guys like that could take him down and kind of use certain, yeah, the guys like Chael Sonnen. There's another wrestler he lost to that I'm not thinking of.
A lot of guys.
Tim Kennedy.
Oh, back in the day.
So yeah, the same thing Tim Kennedy did, the same thing Chael Sonnen did. Even Rashad Evans, that was a close fight, but that same style is what GSP brings to the table, so I think he's got a good shot to win it. But I could see Bisping winning it too. But just my heart's with with GSP, and I made a little play on it.
I made a play already on the other side. I made a play on Bisping for this reason. Bisping was a 205er when he came into the UFC, not just on the Tough show, but he actually fought in the UFC at 205. And then finally he dropped down to 185 and made that run. But Bisping's actually on the best run of his UFC career. The 5-fight win streak that he is currently on is the longest win streak of his career. And look, granted, the Luke Rockhold middleweight title win was a little bit fluky. It was a monumental upset.
He definitely won that fight. The Anderson Silva fight, he got completely knocked out at the end of the fourth round, and it was a hometown decision. I don't think he won that fight, but he has been hot as of late. And
look, what's going to happen if GSP doesn't take him down? Don't you agree? And this is what I see happening here. The bigger guy, which is still Michael Bisping, period. He's the bigger guy here. He's going to be taller. He used to fight at 205. And he has good hips. He's been able to deal with wrestlers in the past, and he actually has a little bit of offensive wrestling himself. And what people don't realize is how many knockouts Michael Bisping actually has. This guy can punch, and he's a volume striker. He continues to hit you all fight long. If GSP can't take him down, I don't think GSP competes on the feet with Michael Bisping at this point. I think Michael Bisping's bigger, stronger, throws more volume. Michael Bisping doesn't have to knock out GSP to win. People keep asking me, do you think Bisping will catch him? I go, he doesn't have to catch him. He just has to keep the fight standing and do what Bisping does. Land volume on the smaller guy.
Yeah, and if Bisping does win, I don't see him just beating GSP. Look, GSP has fought at the top level for so many years as champion.
What does 4 years
his
off
only
mean?
2 losses in his entire life are that armbar versus Matt Hughes, which you see what he did in the second and third fight to him, and a fluke knockout with Matt Serra, and you see what happened in the rematch with that one. So, I mean, let's not underestimate GSP. A lot of people are saying Bisping's going to kill him. I don't think that's going to be a case. I'm expecting a close fight.
I don't want to disagree that I'm not saying it's not going to be close, and even if Michael Bisping knocks him out, it doesn't mean the fight isn't close. This fight has been and is basically a pick-em for a reason. There's a strong case to be made on both sides. I have lost money, admittedly, before fading fighters off more than 3-year layoffs, including a big fade of Korean Zombie against Dennis Bermudez, and he knocked Dennis Bermudez out cold. Although he was losing that fight, Dennis Bermudez. I don't know. And I don't think any of us know. And that's the great unknown. What has 4 years off done to GSP? But at least I know what I'm getting with Bisping. Bigger, stronger, volume puncher. I'm going to go ahead and lean that way to pick 'em price.
Co-main event. TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt. Last time they were supposed to fight, I think Garbrandt was a -140 favorite, and I had some wood laid on it, and the fight got called off. Since then, Cody's had neck surgery, and now it's up to -175 favorite, and like, I feel like it should have kind of slid the other way after that, and I'm not as excited about laying the price.
I'm not either. And look, this was one of the fights I was really excited about in 2017. Rarely in UFC do we get true grudge matches. Like Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor didn't really hate each other. That was all, kayfabe, play hate just to build a fight. John Jones really hated Daniel Cormier, and Cormier hated John Jones, and it made those rivalries enthralling. Tito Ortiz hated Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell hated Tito Ortiz. It made those rivalries fun. You hated Tito. Tito hated you. It made me need to watch the fight. That's the case here. These guys really don't like each other. It's a genuine, real rivalry. But I'm with you. I have no idea what a neck surgery means to an MMA fighter less than 2 months removed from it.
Yeah, that's an awfully quick. I mean, think after surgery you need at least a month off of nothing.
Of nothing.
And then you have 4 weeks of training, you're fighting.
I just don't know.
Scares me a little bit.
I don't know how healed Cody is, or I don't even know what the whole process means to a fighter and what the problems were, and I really don't understand it. Necks and backs are so tricky. There's no way I could lay this price. I love Cody. His rise has been monumental. But TJ's a true veteran of the sport. And Mac Danza, I mean, his crew up there, they might do one of the best jobs of game planning. I mean, his game plan against Barao was perfect.
And yeah, like there's the rumors, oh, Cody beat him up in the gym and he knocked him out and this and that. That was at Team Alpha Male. Since then, TJ moved up with Dwayne Ludwig, switched camps, and he's become a completely different fighter. He's not going to get the same TJ Dillashaw.
No, I agree that you've seen the evolution of TJ Dillashaw under Bang Ludwig and that team and what they've done, and I think TJ, he looked really strong against Lineker. You could make a case that he also beat Dominic Cruz. I mean, Cruz was Cruz was on his bicycle the whole did TJ a little bit. I don't know. Look, there's two ways to look at this fight, in my opinion. We have to assume Cody's healthy from the neck injury, because otherwise, why is he fighting in such an important fight? So let's assume that he's 100% healthy, even though it's scary. It's neck surgery. It seems scary. There's two ways to look at this fight. Either this is going to be an amazing fight. These two actually are really even, so that would mean there's value in TJ at plus 155. Or you throw out the two Barao fights and you say, well, look at Barao since. Maybe Barao really wasn't the guy we thought he was. He just kind of cleaned out a shallow bantamweight division at the time. I mean, look at the guys he was beating. I mean, wasn't the biggest world beater list in the world, Barao.
Yeah.
And then we look at TJ, lost to a Sun Cow, lost to John Dodson, lost to Dominic Cruz. Who else has TJ actually really beat? John Lineker?
Oh, and he got knocked out on the Ultimate Fighter by the Brazilian guy. Yeah.
He got whipped by John Dodson.
And then
lost to a Sun Cow the first time they fought.
And that's how I see this fight playing out. I give Cody the advantage when it comes to hands. I think his fundamentals in his boxing is the best in the division.
Unbelievable.
His distance, too. He stays just outside your range, and his feet are under him in a great position to counter. But what TJ does better than Cody is kicks, and he has vicious head kicks.
Yeah.
And one of those could change the course of the fight.
And what we haven't seen yet, or at least I haven't seen it at all really, is what happens when you take Cody Garbrandt down. I'm not saying that TJ will or can, because I haven't seen anyone do it yet. I mean, Dom wanted to too, and he didn't have a shot to do it. In fact, Cruz looked so bad there. I mean, Garbrandt toyed with him.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give Cody TJ the wrestling advantage.
That's right. I think TJ does, but we've never seen Cody on the ground.
Yes,
so
no one's been able to take him down.
It's an interesting fight. Look, I'm scared of the neck surgery, so I won't lay it. And in fact, if this line keeps going up over 200, if Cody becomes a bigger than 200 favorite, I'm actually going to make a small play on TJ, even though I'm a big-time fan of Cody Garbrandt.
The women's championship fight, Rose Namajunas versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And hey, does Rose have a shot? Joanna just, man, has been so dominant in that division. But Rose has improved a lot. She's young. She's only 24.
Yeah.
And she has gotten physically stronger. But I still don't think she's physically strong enough to compete with Joanna. And at minus, what, 550? Is it worth...
I'm going to say it already, Rose Namajunas. You got a big fan here, and you got money on you in Vegas from this guy right here. Plus 500 bet, made it yesterday on Rose Namajunas at one of the local casinos. I absolutely think she's very live in this fight. What is the one vulnerability we have seen from Joanna Jędrzejczyk? And look, I'm a huge fan. I honestly believe that Joanna Jędrzejczyk is the greatest women's MMA practitioner in the history of mixed martial arts.
What's her Achilles
Ronda
heel?
Rousey, it's takedowns. We saw against Claudia Gadelha in the first fight, the first 2 rounds, Claudia was able to take her down almost at will. The problem was Claudia tried to take her down and ground and pound her and trying to do all this stuff with her on the ground. Rose Namajunas might be the most creative submission artist in the entire UFC right now. And if she's able to get Joanna down early, I think she's more likely to get a submission than Claudia Gadelha or Carolina was. They're kind of more, hey, we have awesome wrestling, athleticism, take you down and ground and pound you. Rose Namajunas gets you on the ground. She has 52 different ways to tie you up into something, and she is so creative, a submission artist. While before they get all sweaty and takedowns become tough, if Rose can get it early, I think she has a shot.
Yeah, and she has evolved a lot over the last few years. Just watching some of her fights from a few years back, like physically, she wasn't developed. She wasn't nearly as strong as she is now. So I think a lot of people look at that and kind of think the old Rose from a few years ago and say, oh, she doesn't have a chance. But the new Rose, she might.
That's right. I think she does. Look, I think she grew up around the MMA. She's been with Pat Barry for a long time, and she was a young girl when
she was jailbait.
Yeah, I don't even want to say how long she's been with Pat Barry, but her and Pat Barry have been together for a long time, and Pat Barry was always fighting at the time in the UFC, one of the most exciting heavyweights we saw in the UFC, and she was always around the fights. She grew up in it, developed a passion for it. I mean, 5 of her 6 wins are by submission. She's really good. And I love her whole, you look at some of the fighters like Claudia Gadelha and Jessica Andrade especially, look to me in the press conference like they lost. Like, Joanna has a way of getting in your head, and she's done it this week even more than ever to Rose Namajunas, pointing out some of the mental disabilities that Rose's dad may have had. And I think even Joanna may have crossed the line with her pre-fight antics this week. But you saw Claudia fall for him. You knew in the pre-fight Joanna has her right where she wants her. Same thing with Andrade. She had Andrade so fired up and mad and mean. And there's a certain calmness and a certain, okay, we'll see, to Rose Namajunas this week that I really like. She doesn't look intimidated. She's not fired up. She's not mad. She's just like, hi, I'm Rose Namajunas, and I'm going to choke your neck off. And I'm like, awesome.
Really, at plus 500, hey, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, really, it's worth
really
the shot.
can't.
For $100 gets you 500. It basically makes your whole card.
A fight I'm really looking forward to, a fans type of fight, is George Masvidal versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And this is the kind of fight where I think if Masvidal just uses his complete MMA game, including his wrestling, his takedowns, mixing it up, he has a really good shot in this. But if he just goes machismo and slugs it out with Stephen Thompson, I think he's going to lose, and I don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah. I don't know what to make of Jorge Masvidal. I know that there's so many people, and I actually get terrific responses for this show we do on Twitter and everything, and the one time I always seem to get bad responses is anytime I say anything bad about Jorge Masvidal, because he seems to have this cult following of people who think he's the greatest. I don't like Jorge Masvidal as a fighter. 3-3 in his last 6, 4-4 in his last 8. This is a guy who can't get on a winning streak. No matter what he does, he's either too cautious and loses split decisions in fights where he's winning, or he's too gung-ho and gets caught in fights where he's winning. He just never seems to have that ability to gauge what to do at the right time, when to push the button and go all out, when to pull back. He's either too cautious, losing decisions, too hyperactive and losing. I'm not a big fan, and I think Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's the kind of guy that when you make a mistake against him, he kicks your head off and you're sleeping.
Yeah, and also like the way to fight Stephen Thompson is how Woodley did. You don't attack him.
Don't engage.
You don't attack him. You just sit back, and eventually look to counter him. But Masvidal's the type of guy who's going to attack him,
look what's happened when people attack him.
Yeah, bad things. You get knocked out. You get knocked out. And
that Johnny Hendricks kick, when Johnny Hendricks went after him,
yeah.
I remember Johnny charging in with that left hand, and wham! Oh my God, that head kick. Woo!
And
I
Thompson,
still see that one. The Jake Ellenberger spin kick. Oh my God!
Beautiful. You hear his dad yell spin, and then again spin. Two of them. And you never know when those flashy kicks are going to come out. So yeah, a guy you don't want to move forward on. But you know, Masvidal comes from a good camp, and
he's
I'm
so
sure he'll have a good
everywhere.
Game plan. But I think he might get too macho in there and try to attack.
I mean, we're talking about a guy who has the talent to beat anyone in the world, who has 12 losses, who's 4-4 his last 8. 3-3 his last 6. You look throughout his entire career, it's not like, hey, this is a guy who started off really bad and then, like Rafael Dos Anjos, and then went on a huge run. This is a guy who just can't consistently put it together.
Yeah, and Thompson right now, minus 170. Yeah, I personally was going to look to bet Thompson if it were a little closer, but I think I'm going to pass.
I was thinking maybe the under in this fight. So what interested me is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and this is the bet I am making on this fight, suddenly has a bad rap because of Tyron Woodley. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is not a conservative fighter. He knocks people the bleep out. And see how I bleep? I don't even do the Kevin Lee on this show. Love you, Kev. This is a guy who before that just destroyed Johnny Hendricks, destroyed Jake Ellenberger, had Rory McDonald not wanting to fight anymore. I mean, Rory McDonald left the UFC because of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. This guy was golden child to the middleweight title, and then his kryptonite was a guy who didn't want to fight. But Wonderboy Thompson gets in there and throws down, and is a guy that one strike, one kick, one punch, has power everywhere. But you can go under 2.5 rounds here at plus 175, and I think you and I would both agree in this fight, if Jorge Masvidal is going to win, it's probably not going to be a boring decision. He's probably going to take him down. If he takes him down, he's going to dominate. I mean, Wonderboy's not going to handle Masvidal on the ground. So in that case, he would probably win by submission, or Masvidal's going to run into something here. But at 2-1 odds, I'm going to take it that this one doesn't see the scorecards.
All right, another 2-1 underdog that I like. Well, just it's actually up to 195. That's what I bet on. Johnny Hendricks versus Paulo Borrachinha, and Borrachinha is undefeated, but like, he's never fought a wrestler of this caliber. The only thing that worries me is Hendricks' motivation. And, you know, he was a big favorite in Tim Boesch fight, but Tim Boesch is a D1 wrestler. We saw Borrachinha in his last fight with Bam Boesch get taken down. Like, it wasn't too hard to do. And I think if Hendricks, you know, comes in a little bit motivated, makes the weight, he has a good shot. And I mean, if it were a pick-em, I probably wouldn't touch it, but I got him at plus 195. This is a former champion fighting a guy who's never fought a top 10 guy.
I agree with everything you just said, except I need to see the weigh-in before I can put any money on Johnny Hendricks, because he has looked really bad.
Yeah.
He showed up with a gut to the last weigh-in. I need to see that Johnny Hendricks has put a little work into this. Before I start putting any money on him, because he's looked bad at a couple of weigh-ins. And Borrachinha, 10-0, 10 knockouts, 10 finishes, and he's only made it out of the first round once in 10 fights. There are so many unanswered questions about this guy. Does he have any stamina? Does he have a gas tank? Can he wrestle? What happens when he doesn't knock you out in a minute and a half? There's a million questions about him.
And even his last fight with Bam Boesch, he went into the second round, but Bam Boesch threw a kick, slipped and fell, and then he ground and pounded, and he covered up a little bit. Yeah, there's a lot of you don't know about him. So, I mean, people are giving him a lot of credit, and he really hasn't proven himself. And
I have heard this. I've heard that Dana and them love him. That his highlight reels of the non-UFC fights and his first UFC fight are pretty impressive. He gets in there and takes out dudes. And some of the dudes he fought in Jungle Fight were like 13-3, 12-2. They were legit dudes fighting down there. And he put them all away in the first round. And they need a new Brazilian star, because it is really important to the success of the UFC with all the shows they do in Brazil and the fan base in Brazil that they have Brazilian stars. Nogueira's done. You know, the Hall of Fame Nogueira retired, the other one on the way to retirement. Anderson Silva on the way to retirement. Jose Aldo, probably closer to retirement than not.
Yeah.
Shogun Rua, on the way to retirement. Vitor Belfort should have retired already. Lyoto Machida just got knocked into retirement by Derek Brunson. Whether he wants to retire or not, it's probably over now, Lyoto. They need new Brazilian stars, and this guy, 10-0, 10 KOs, 25 years old, could be that guy. I have so many questions about this fight. Maybe after I see the weigh-in, if Johnny Hendricks doesn't have a trucker gut, I might play him.
Yeah, I like him at 2-1, and I like him because
don't bet him now. Wait, are you gonna bet him if he has a trucker? If you bet him now, you're gonna call me after and go, "Oh shit, Johnny Hendricks has a trucker gut."
Yeah, I got him at 195, and I just weighed out all those.
And don't
things.
You think this line will move
at
tomorrow?
3 rounds, I could see Hendricks getting takedowns.
And if it gets out of the first, I have no idea what can Borrachina do outside of the first.
Yeah, we've seen Hendricks go 5 rounds before, so
I have no questions about any of that. I just
know.
think Hendricks is getting a little chinny and a little heavy in the midsection.
There's a dog you like coming up next, James Vick, about a plus 150 dog against Joe Duffy. And why do you like Vick?
I love Vick here. I think he's taller, longer, rangier. I know Team Lloyd Irvin gets a bad rep for a lot of the things that have happened there, and I don't even want to discuss Lloyd Irvin or what's happened in the past in his camps, but he produces champion-level athletes, and James Vick is one of those guys. 7-1 in the UFC, quietly 7-1 in the UFC, and I don't want to call his loss to Beneil Dariush a fluke, because Beneil Dariush is awesome. He's a ranked guy. He's top of the lightweight class. But it was a one punch. He got caught with one shot. And, Vick has a tendency to brawl sometimes, but he is so good in submissions. He's so long. And I feel a little bit like Joe Duffy is living off the fact that in 2010, he beat Conor McGregor with a triangle choke in a European organization. Because of that, Conor came over and was such a star, and they're like, no one can beat Conor, but he has these losses. Who are they to? Joe Duffy. Who's this Duffy guy? Oh man, we got to get this Duffy guy. And Duffy's really strong on the ground. He's solid on the feet. The first time he stepped up in class, and the only time in the UFC against Dustin Poirier, he got waxed. And I actually think James Vick is a step up in class again for Joe Duffy.
You saw what Conor did to Poirier.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't think Joe Duffy is a big, dangerous puncher, and I think that's what kind of Vick's susceptible to, like you said.
That's
right.
right.
There he is. I don't think Joe Duffy is going to submit James Vick, and that's what he does best.
That's right. I think Vick has enough submission chops to not get submitted by Duffy. Wear him out a little on the feet. Duffy gets frustrated like he did against Poirier, and then all of a sudden this fight turns into James Vick. And we have taken some sharp money on Vick. This one was as high as Duffy minus 185. It's back down to Duffy 155. You want to bet James Vick, bet it early. Don't wait. This line's only going one way.
All right, Mark Godbeer, Walt Harris. We bet the under last time these two were supposed to fight, and then one of those day of pull-out cancellations. They're fighting again. Do you still like the under? Has anything changed?
I still do, and what a quick turnaround. I mean, this was on the undercard of Lee Ferguson that Walt Harris ended up fighting and losing in the very first round to Fabricio Verdum. And now here he is back again, fighting the guy he was supposed to fight again. And I'm just absolutely amazed by this fight that A, he's back so quick. Look, we have seen quick turnarounds not work for fighters in the past. And there's a difference between, I understand that they both trained, they both went to weigh in and everything the last time, but Harris actually had to fight. Godbeer just collected a check and went to the house. There's a difference, right? Actually getting in the octagon, going through that experience and sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
Even though there was no damage done, Fabricio Verdum took him down, slapped on an armbar, and he tapped before the armbar even looked like it was sunk in. But I don't know what to make of this fight, except for the fact that all 10 of Walt Harris's wins come by knockout. 9 of the 11 wins for Godbeer come by knockout, and they've both been knocked out. We bet the under the last time. I don't see any reason why we won't bet the under again.
And the under's even money.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong. Okay, going down the card, is there anything you really, I know you like, here, let me just say, my other big underdog pick, Oleksiy Oleinik is a 3-1 dog against Curtis Blades. Oleinik has over 60 fights, and this guy, like, if you're on the ground with him, your history's choked out Jeff Monson. You saw
Travis Brown
easily tap out Travis Brown in his last fight. And Curtis Blades, not a lot of experience. I think he's got less than 10 fights. Why is he a -360 favorite?
Oleinik gets no respect because he's kind of a journeyman. He's been around. He's never really got to the top of the mountain, and now he's 40 years old. So people expect a 40-year-old who never really made it to completely fall off the cliff.
He's won his last couple fights.
That's right. He's actually looked really good lately. Curtis Blades, to your point, doesn't have a lot of experience. I'm with you. I'm going to throw a little bit on Oleinik here because I think if this fight, to your point, if Curtis Blades just trips and falls, he's probably getting choked out.
If for any reason, if this fight ends up on the ground, it's over. And Curtis Blades, less than 10 fights, huge favorite in this fight. As a pick'em, I wouldn't touch it, but as a 3-1 dog, I just can't help myself.
I'm with you there.
The guy you like, we got Corey Anderson versus OSP, and Corey Anderson about a 150 dog in this fight.
So I played a couple of the dogs. I played Randy Brown and I played Corey Anderson. It just seems to me like OSP is getting a little bit too much love for beating up on a really small 170-pound Yushinakami coming up to 205 to save that UFC Japan card. And he took the beating for UFC and lost in the first round like he was supposed to. But what does that mean for OSP? You beat up a 170-pounder, and your last fight, a 40-year-old 170-pound guy?
Historically, he has trouble with wrestlers. You saw in the Bader fight. Bader
Glover Teixeira, Ryan Bader.
Yeah, Glover out-wrestled him.
Yeah. I actually think this is a great fight for Corey Anderson. He'll be able to get takedowns, use his top position. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I don't think it's going to be exciting. But I think Corey Anderson ends up winning a decision around +150. And dollars in your pocket's always exciting to me. So I'm going to go with the boring wrestler and Corey Anderson to use that wrestling to do exactly basically what he did to Jan Blachowicz, which is just hold him down, hit him a little bit, super heavy top game at the end of the day.
Same strategy. Yeah. And it's, you know, when you're just coming off a fight and you're going back to that same game plan, you're going to do it even better.
That's right.
So you like
Randy Brown?
Randy Brown against Mickey Gall. It's pretty much a pick'em.
Randy Brown money went all, no, it's Mickey Gall -125. Okay. We took a bunch of bets and the line flip-flopped to Mickey Gall, a favorite here. But I can't get over two things with Mickey Gall. Number one, he has the worst resume in terms of level of competition of any fighter in the UFC. I mean, he has 4 fights. One of them was against another guy making his pro debut, his first fight, to go 1-0. Then he gets in the UFC and he fights for the rights to fight CM Punk against another guy making his pro debut, beats him. Then he fights CM Punk, who's making his pro debut. Obviously, CM Punk couldn't fight, beats him. Then he fights Sage Northcutt.
Who has no ground.
No ground game at all. And look, in that fight, at least where it went longer than a round, what you got to see in that fight is Mickey Gall can't strike. His striking was terrible, technically flawed. It looked really bad. Mickey Gall did not look like a professional striker in that match versus Sage Northcutt. And then, of course, he got Sage on the ground, who has 0 ground game whatsoever, and he put Sage away with another submission. Okay, so he hasn't beaten anybody. We have no idea about anything about Mickey Gall except 2 things. He's good at submissions, and he's not very good at striking. Now he's fighting a guy in Randy Brown, fairly young, good hands, good footwork, not that bad with submissions himself. This is like the first true UFC fighter that Mickey Gall has fought, but people know Mickey Gall. He beat CM Punk, and he beat Sage Northcutt. So, of course, the money's going to go on Mickey Gall. Randy Brown opened as a favorite in this fight for a reason, because people that do fight statistics know that Randy Brown should have been a small favorite in this fight. But it's not surprising that all the money came in on Mickey Gall. He's had the more famous fights. He's on Dana White looking for a fight. And then they put him in a big fight to see who gets to fight CM Punk. And then he fought CM Punk. He got all these high-profile, cupcake, easy fights. Of course, he's the name. Randy Brown had to earn it, dig in the trenches to get here. I think Randy Brown's toolbox is much deeper than Mickey Gall's at this point. If Mickey Gall gets him on the ground, can he submit him? Sure. His submission game is really strong. He trains at the Miller's Brothers Gym in New Jersey. They're all really good at submissions. Jim Miller's a submission beast. But what happens if he doesn't get him down?
That's
I think he
a good
might
point.
get smacked around.
I was gonna bet Brown like right away, and then I checked out one of his whole fights where someone got on his back and choked him out. Then he'd be a little bit worried. So, but I think
Don't get
standing
me wrong.
up.
Who does the UFC want to win? I'm sure it's Mickey Gall. But Randy Brown is the most legit guy he ever fought, at least.
He's going to have a huge advantage standing up, and he's not the easiest guy to take down.
That's right.
Pretty strong hips. Well, man, those were a lot of fights to talk about. There are a couple good dogs to play. Some fights I'm really looking forward to, and Ryan Quinn versus Ryan Couture.
Ryan Couture, watch out. The mighty Quinn is hunting you down.
All right, for Matthew Holt, I'm Stephan Bonnar. Enjoy the fight. See you next week on the final round.